So is it starting? All right, perfect. Hey guys, my name is Crider. I make daily personal finance and entrepreneurship related videos here on YouTube. And today we have a special guest. We have Waller's Wallet here, and he's going to talk with us about the #1 benefit to building credit. So before we hop right in, why don't you give us a little background on where you are at with credit, with life, whatever stage you're in. Give us a little background on your credit history and just like where you've been.
Absolutely. So thanks for having me on here, everyone. I'm Waller's Wallet. I do tend to focus on credit cards for travel and trying to reduce those using your points and cash back to really travel for less. And I actually started building credit probably when I was about 16. I got my first credit card through actually a credit union that was local. And, from there, I was going through school. I got a couple of auto loans to build up my credit with cars. Now, I've used my credit to really get myself a really good interest rate on my house. I graduated pharmacy school, and with my interest rates, with my credit score as well, I was able to refinance my student loans and receive a lower rate and really pay those off at a much faster rate. So I think right now, like my credit score itself is like 820. So dang. Yeah, I've had credit. My credit history is about 10 to 12 years old, and I have a mix of, credit cards for points related activities, as well as my long-term keepers to really keep helping extend my history.
Cool. I guess you guys probably know where I'm at with credit cards, but I'll give you all a rundown just in case we got some new viewers here. So I am much earlier on in my credit card and credit building journey. So I'm 19 years old, and I've only been building credit for about a year. I've got 4 credit cards right now. My credit score is sitting at about a 720, I do believe. And so far I've got about $800 in credit card rewards. So again, it's not the most important thing to focus on, but it is a nice benefit to building credit. And again, I just make daily YouTube videos sharing my credit card experiences and how I am going about building my credit. So as far as the #1 benefit that you see to building credit, could you just talk on that for a little bit?
Yeah, absolutely. So, I think really the big part of building credit is really help pay and really kind of get yourself set up for those bigger purchases later in your life. So like you're 19, so you're just starting off and you have bigger purchases coming down the road. Probably one of the biggest purchases you're ever going to make is a house payment, buying a house. And that plays a big important role. So like, while I typically focus on travel and credit cards, credit really goes beyond those travel rewards that everyone kind of looks towards right now, looking like the points guy and whatnot.
Yep.
But really just starting off young and building that solid foundation to help you those ones, that's going to just be that just gives you a better picture of life. More importantly, the cards coming out on the market. And banks use your credit history to kind of tell a story.
Mm-hmm.
Your credit history is a story, and however, you want to be a good story for the banks.
Yes.
About 2/3 of your credit history, total credit history, is your payment history and utilization. So if you're someone missing payments and having a high utilization, that's really going to be a bad story to tell the banks. And you're not likely to get that mortgage or that loan, or if you are, your interest rates are going to be much higher.
Mm-hmm.
And that's a negative, and that's tough because those percentage points later on in those big purchases can add up to thousands of dollars.
Yeah, I think it's really key to move beyond just the travel rewards or like the cash back and stuff, and just look at all the money that you're going to save down the road, like you're saying with these big purchases, because the average American actually pays about $280,000 in interest throughout the course of their life. Mm-hmm. So being able to reduce the interest rate on, say, your mortgage or a car loan or a business loan or anything like that by even just like a percentage point or two can really, really add up and can really like make a dent in that $280,000 that you're going to be paying. Like you said, the free travel can be a nice perk, but you really do have to look at the bigger picture and these big expenses that are really going to, you're basically just paying the bank $280,000 to borrow their money. But if they know that they can trust you with it, then you can get away with paying them much, much less to borrow this money to finance a house or a car or something like that.
Right.
So what got you really into building credit in the first place? Like, did your parents get you into it? Did you just like stumble upon building credit? Like where did the interest come from?
So I've always been interested in numbers and, money as far as managing it and trying to manage it as well as I can. So early on, I knew credit was going to be important for me later on. I didn't know how important at the time, but I just knew it was important to have. And you always heard those horror stories of someone's parents who are like, I don't believe in credit. I only did cash. And they go for a mortgage and they're like, sorry, you don't get the mortgage rate, or you don't get a mortgage because you don't have any credit history. And I really didn't want that to happen. And my parents were really on board with that as well. And they had been building up credit, but I'd noticed there were some things that they were doing that I could improve upon in my own credit history. So I just knew it was bigger, you know, it's going to be a bigger downstream effect for me having a positive credit history than, you know, just kind of sitting idle and racking up credit card debt to, you know, go on spring break vacations.
That's fair. That's fair. Yeah, I think a lot of people are just afraid of credit cards, and they think by not going for credit cards, they're actually doing themselves a service. But it's really not going to be advantageous for you when you get down to the age of, say, like 27, 28. You're looking to maybe buy your first home. And if you have no history behind you, then banks have nothing to look at. They have nothing to judge you on. And instead of it looking like, oh, you never had to borrow money, so you're going to be a great borrower, the banks are going to say, wow, we have no idea how you're going to react to all this debt. So we're not going to be able to give you a loan, or we're not going to be able to give it to you at a good interest rate. So by not getting a credit card early on, you're actually doing yourself a disservice, because you're not building up this good history early on, when it is much easier to manage and potentially even free. Because again, if you pay off your cards on time and in full, like I personally recommend, you're not going to be paying the banks any money in interest. So it's potentially an interest-free loan that you can just use to build credit. Whereas if you're building your credit with an auto loan or a mortgage or a student loan, that's going to cost you money in the form of interest, regardless of whether or not you're making your payments. So this can potentially be a free way for you to start building your credit at a young age, if you're able to get those good habits in place.
Nope, absolutely. I agree 100%.
So beyond that, so I mean, what got you started making actual YouTube videos on your credit? Because I think a lot of people get into credit and they start building their credit. I mean, you kind of have to if you want to get by. But what got you into actually like creating content? Because I think that's really cool, and I think it's really cool when people like take it a step further and actually start creating stuff instead of just like doing, like they're actually like showing.
Yeah, no, it's the YouTube's platform has been very different for me. I actually blog. I actually had my own blog for a couple of years, and I've been contributing to a larger blog as well for almost 2 years now. And, you know, I would always video chat with friends, you know, recommending credit cards and saying, hey, what's your credit score like? Okay, let's try to look at how you can utilize this to get yourself to Europe or Asia for, you know, very little out of pocket. And a friend of mine had said, hey, you know what, you have a lot of enthusiasm talking about points and credit cards. Like, you should try YouTube. And I was like, I've never thought about that. And it definitely takes you out of your comfort zone, because talking into a camera or talking to an audience through the camera it's putting yourself in a different perspective and really putting yourself out there, as opposed to typing words where people don't really get that interaction with you.
I totally get that. All right, looks like we have a comment here from D. Anderson. D says, I'm 44, 2015, not sure, went through a separation/divorce. I had to start over 9/15. I had 2 secured cards, Wells Fargo and US Bank, got a personal credit loan with Wells Fargo, a car loan in 2016, 2 cards graduated. Now I have 4 Wells, US Bank, upgraded. Oh my goodness, so many things. Well, that is D's history with credit right there. Thanks for sharing. Appreciate that. Appreciate you stopping by. If you have a question, feel free to ask it and we can respond. Otherwise, just thanks for sharing your history with credit. I appreciate it. Let's see. I think building credit is actually like as far as hobbies go, I think like building credit and like maximizing your credit card rewards is actually like it's a really profitable hobby to have. Like some people, like, I don't know, like refurbish like old cars and stuff. But I think building credit's a really interesting hobby, because it allows me, I mean, like you said, I also really like numbers. So I think it's a good way to like do something with numbers, but also do something that's like profitable. And you can actually like get free travel out of it.
Yeah. I mean, if you play your cards right, then you can actually, you know, you make money on the banks. Because I think what people don't realize is that, you know, like, for example, I earn great rewards, and, you know, you have your Chase Freedom and Chase Freedom Unlimited. So you're earning pretty good rewards right there, but you're getting it at the expense of someone else's interest rate, right? So by people mismanaging it, I always tell people, like, if you hold a balance, well, I thank you for paying for my rewards. I appreciate the free trip you're putting me on. When you do that trip, if you just able to manage a little bit better, and, you know, people fall into situations, being able to get yourself in a situation where you can either use the right card to have no interest if you have to hold a balance, or, you know, just paying off those balance, not overextending yourself, is really key.
I agree. All right, Colin asks, what is your opinion on self-lender or credit building loans? Do you have an opinion on those?
I would be careful with those because some of those do charge you like a higher interest rate. I've seen ones too where they'll, lend yourself some money, earn yourself free miles, but the interest rates are really high. Even the origination fees. So even if the interest rates are lower, the origination fees are much higher than what the value could be. So I really would just be careful with those. Just because of the fact there is a lot of risk involved with those as well. Because if you do borrow and something happens, you're on the hook for a lot of money, and the interest rates do spike up on those.
Yeah, I would agree. I think if you're in a position where you're trying to rebuild your credit, I think secured credit cards are definitely, I would say, a better way to go than credit building loans, just in my opinion, just because, I mean, potentially it's free if you're paying it off on time and in full. So I would say probably not to that. What was I going to say? I was going to say something. Oh yeah, what are your thoughts on Dave Ramsey? I'm just curious.
So I think he's interesting, and it doesn't fall under my philosophy of it because I manage my credit very well, and I have the ability to pay off any credit anything I put on my card. I think for people who can't manage or have, I've spoken to people before. I'm like, well, if you get this card, you can do that, and people have just flat out have told me I can't have a credit card. I will overspend, and they just don't have that self-control.
Mm-hmm.
I think his philosophy works well for those people. I do think it takes a lot of discipline to be able to manage credit cards across the board for many people. Even just one card can put people over the edge as far as, I have a $4,000 credit limit. I'm going to go shopping. I'm going to book this vacation, and then they can't pay it off. So, I don't necessarily agree with everything that he says, but I think for people who can't truly manage or have that impulse to just buy, he's not bad for those people, but personally for me, it doesn't make any sense for me to follow his philosophies.
That's real. And I mean, it's good on those people for having the self-awareness to realize that they wouldn't be able to effectively use a credit card. Because I think there's a lot of self-awareness that comes down to the decision of whether or not you can trust yourself with a credit card. You really have to know how you would respond to this potentially good tool, but also potentially dangerous thing that could get you in a lot of trouble. But if you have the self-awareness to realize that you could manage it effectively, then it does make a lot of sense. But again, if you realize that, no, I couldn't do that, I don't have the discipline, the self-control to make that happen, I think that's good on them for taking that into their own hands and realizing that that's the way they need to go.
Right.
All right, Colin is back. Colin says, do you have any regrets with credit? A card that got away / line of credit you regret, etc. Any thoughts on this?
Oh, as far as cards that got away, I mean, I'm well past the Chase 524 rule, so I got to miss out on the 100,000 reserve points. So that they closed a loophole too, where if you went into the bank and pre-approved, you could bypass it. But I missed out on that. But as far as regrets with credit, early on in my life, when I first got a credit card, I had racked up a couple $1,000s in credit card debt because I didn't truly know, because I was following kind of in my parents' footsteps on certain things. And yeah, I even had friends, family saying, open a credit card, buy some stuff, transfer the balance over to 0%. So they kind of lived on their means. So, I had early on when I was 16, 17, I think I had like $3,000 in credit card debt. And the way I took myself out of that was actually had an auto loan that had equity built up into the car.
Okay.
And so my interest rate on my car loan was like, I think it was 1.2%. It's something really low. Not ideal, but I took the equity on my car and paid off my high interest credit card debt. And from that point, I've never held a balance because I saw, it was going to take me, I think, like 8 years to pay off using the minimum payment. I was like, this is just not working for me. And from that moment, that's like a wake up call. The biggest regret was it was the biggest regret racking it up, but it was actually a really good positive and story for me to learn.
Yeah, I mean, it does help to learn from actual experience and not just like hearing somebody else talk about it. Personally, I haven't built up any credit card debt, so I can't really speak on that. But as far as regrets, I would probably say not knowing about like how to maximize credit cards like from the get-go. So I think the only like misstep that I made was probably going for the Fidelity Visa card, just because now that I have the Chase Freedom Unlimited, that card's kind of redundant for me and I'm not going to use it probably. just because once I get like a Chase Sapphire Reserve or a Chase Sapphire Preferred, and I can redeem my cash back that I built up for Ultimate Reward points, it's gonna be more lucrative for me to use the Chase Freedom Unlimited than the Fidelity card. So I think if I would have not gotten that, I could have gotten more Chase cards while I'm still under 524, because I'm looking at like the United card and a couple other Chase cards. But I mean, I don't really have any big regrets so far. I don't think I've made any huge like mistakes.
No, I don't think so, because that Fidelity card is going to be good for you because there's no fee. So you can just keep that and keep
exactly. It's just one to hold on to. So it's not like a mistake, but I kind of just wish I would have like known about like the 524 rule or anything like that before I would have started.
Yeah.
Before I would have started out. Let's see. So how many cards do you have right now? Just out of curiosity.
Between me and my wife, we have probably close to 50 active credit cards.
Wow.
I've been doing that. So I've been churning credit cards for probably the last 4 or 5 years.
Okay.
And you know, a couple years ago, it was a lot easier to get Chase cards and a lot of other cards from banks. A lot of my credit cards are no fee credit cards. You know, I will keep those. So for me, you know, I have more of a cashback rotation now just because it works well for me. But I have a stash of points that I built up through credit card bonuses. I think I have like 6 or 7 credit cards I use on like a daily basis that work in and out. But you know, I open a card for the bonus. I'll cancel it at the end of the year if it has a fee, if I don't think it's worth it. But I think I'm close to 50 between my wife and myself.
Wow, that's impressive. So, of your no fee cards, which ones are those? Like, do you have a lot of cards that have annual fees, or just a couple? Or
I'm trying to think. I actually don't have that many. So like I have a couple hotel credit cards, like the Hyatt credit cards.
Okay.
Those will stay with me because I can maximize that $75 fee and get far more value at a category 1 through 4.
Yeah.
I typically fly Delta. So the Delta card stays for the fact I get priority boarding. And then if we check a bag on the way home, it's free. I'm trying to think. I have a couple other like airline cards, like the American airline cards that probably won't make the cut to stay for year 2 unless they give me some sort of retention offer. So outside of that, I don't really have a whole lot of fee credit cards right now just because of that fact. But, you know, I've had like the Chase Sapphire Preferred in the past, but a lot of them are just for the sign-up bonus, and then I reevaluate.
So you don't have any of those like premium ones, like the Amex Platinum or the Chase Sapphire Reserve, City Prestige?
No, I actually canceled my Business Platinum a couple months ago because when they cut the benefits, American Express has been really had my love-hate relationship with American Express. You know, they reduced the benefit of the 50% down to 35%. You know, I think they have a really restrictive airline credit. You know, everybody was moving, like the Reserve is so great for the travel credit. You can purchase it on Uber or, you know, your toll passes, and it's great.
Yeah.
But, you know, I have to resign myself to one airline. I have to use it on that airline, and that is it.
Yeah, that's not ideal.
Yeah, and I just had a couple bad experiences with it. So I've had premium cards in the past. But I've gotten rid of them for the fees. But if I had to get another one, I'd probably get the Ameriprise Platinum because of the annual fees waived the first year.
Oh yeah. All right, we got some questions coming in. D. Anderson says, "What do you both think about Capital One?" I was informed by somebody by a Facebook message a couple days ago about the Capital One Cafe. Have you heard of the Capital One Cafe?
I have. I've never been in one, but I've heard of them.
Yeah. So I was looking into those a bunch today. So it's funny you asked this question, but I think Capital One, I really think they're cool for putting on the Capital One Cafe. If you're not familiar, I'm going to make a video about it probably. But it's like this sort of co-working space / just like coffee shop / place where you can get some like financial advice / education. So I think it's a really cool resource, and they're really putting it on to like help. It's really aimed at like millennials. Like it's all like open floor plan and like people walking around in t-shirts and stuff. But I think it's really good for getting some financial education to people in a less intimidating environment. Because I mean, the people who are not gonna walk into a bank and like ask them about a credit card, like you could just walk into this like coffee shop and start chatting with somebody about credit cards. So I think that's really cool that Capital One's doing that. I'm not really familiar with a lot of their cards or anything just because I don't have any of them.
Right.
But yeah, that's my 2 cents on Capital One. What do you think?
So I think Capital One it holds its place, especially in the credit card market. And I think a lot of people, especially in the blog world, because it pulls from all three credit bureaus, they look down upon it. Now, I've actually had the venture card twice. My wife has had it twice. You know, I'd have never seen any negatives from it pulling from all three credit bureaus. And frankly, I think if you're someone starting off in the credit card game, a card reporting to all three credit bureaus is actually a positive.
Yeah.
So, you know, it's basically, if you're looking at the Capital One venture card, which is, you know, what's in your wallet, it's, you know, basically a 2% cashback card. I don't think it's worth paying the annual fee. The bonus is great.
Yeah. But $95 is a bit steep for a 2% card.
Yeah, I agree. And then you can downgrade that one and kind of just, you know, use every once in a while to kind of report to all three credit bureaus. You know, if you're into that, I think it takes care of those fees too. You can't necessarily out with points and miles.
Yeah, that makes sense. That makes sense. Okay. Colin says, what are some good ways to use cards that aren't everyday cards, but you still want to keep active?
Sure. I think for those, if you have cards you just want to keep active, you know, once a year, I would say go out, buy a pack of gum at the grocery store or something, or a cup of coffee on it and throw it back in the sock drawer. Keeps that history active. It really prevents the banks from really shutting you down. And, you know, just it's something cheap. So you're not really missing out on a lot of rewards in that card. You're just buying something cheap. You get some history, you pay it off, throw it back in the drawer.
Yeah, I was going to ask you about that because you said you have somewhere in the realm of 50 active cards between you and your wife. So I was just sort of wondering how you keep all 50 of those active. Like, I know you can like refill like your Amazon balance.
Yeah.
Do you do any of that, or do you just like go out and buy like a pack of gum every year?
Sometimes I'll just replenish my Amazon account, but it really depends. I mean, I've actually had some cards I haven't used in a couple of years because if they closed it on me, it wouldn't necessarily be the end of the world for me because I do have a lot of no-fee cards because I kind of build my base with no-fee cards and add in fee credit cards along the way. So it doesn't really reduce the age of my history long term. But
yeah,
I
like that.
A lot of them like that. But I'll buy a pack of gum or just put like $1 on my Amazon account.
That makes sense. Yeah, I think just like little purchases or like maybe every time you go to the grocery store, like split it up among like 3 cards in your like self-checkout thing.
Yeah.
And then every time you go, you've got like a couple more on there.
Right.
So yeah, I think there's plenty of ways to do that that aren't like, they don't have too much friction. I don't think. What are your like plans with credit cards going forward? Do you have any big like you're gonna go for a certain card, or you're just like waiting for offers to come out and like hopping on whatever you think fits best for you?
Yeah, so I think what I'm actually gonna do is I have to lay low for a little bit. I've been on I think a couple months ago I opened 10 cards between me and my wife, 7 of mine, 3 were hers. Wow. So I really hit them really hard because I plan my credit card applications around purchases. So we had some things I had to buy for the house. So I said, hold on, let me open up a couple of credit cards. I ended up opening up 10. But, you know, I plan those. But right now I'm going to lay low just because I have plenty of points to travel probably for the next year to year and a half. And and I'm just having more of a cashback strategy across the board. And then once, you know, in a couple months, if something comes up, I'll apply for it. I'm more of an opportunistic credit card opener as well for the bonus. You know, I typically check like Flyer Talk for historical bonuses and go after it because things are really tightening. So you do want to make sure you're getting the best bonus available.
Yeah, that makes sense. I think it is really smart to plan your credit card applications around purchases too, because if you know you have a big thing coming up, then you could go for one that has a higher sign-up bonus. I mean, especially for me as a college student, like I'm not spending that much money. So I'm pretty limited in terms of like which credit card sign-up bonuses I can reasonably hit within like my normal spending.
Absolutely.
But I think if you know you're going on a trip or if you have to remodel part of your house or whatever, that's a smart way to hit those higher sign-up bonuses, especially as a young person that's not spending that much money.
Agreed.
All right. D. Anderson says, I have Netflix, YouTube Premium, deduct from a different card. Yeah, that's a good way to do it too. If you set it up to auto pay through different services. Do you, I don't know. Out of all of the like big credit card companies, which one would you say is like, have you had the best experience with, or would you like most recommend?
Oh man, I feel like all of them have their pros and cons. I've had great experiences with all of them. I had terrible experiences with all of them. As far as customer service, I've had great experiences with Chase and American Express, but I've also had poor experiences with them. But I mean, if I really had to recommend one in general, for rewards as well as customer service, Chase is really good.
All right.
I mean, purchase protection wise, American Express probably.
Yeah, I mean, that makes sense. I mean, honestly, that's not like a huge concern for me as a college student right now, just because I don't make that many big purchases. But I mean, that definitely makes sense for like an adult, like buying like big things that they want to make sure are covered. Right. All right. Well, I think that's about. Oh, Colin's got a question, but I think we're gonna wrap it up pretty quick.
Okay.
Colin says, if you could only keep a 10-card base for the next 5 years, which cards would you keep? Oh my.
Oh, 10 cards? How about I do 5? Because 10, I mean, I have like a 6-card rotation. So sure. I would say probably I'll do 5. How's that?
Okay.
Is that good, Colin? So I'd probably keep my Uber credit card. That 4% dining and 3% on travel is, although 3% on travel is not like perfect, it's still pretty good, but 4% no fee, no foreign transaction fees is fantastic.
Yeah, that's nice.
I would keep my Chase Freedom for the 5% rotating category. I would keep my Discover It for its 5% rotating category. And I have 2 USAA cards. One actually gets 5% on gas year round up to $3,000.
Wow.
And my last one probably is going to be my USAA Limitless Cashback Credit Card, which is 2.5% cash back on every purchase. So it's really hard, I think, to beat that, especially because, I mean, even if you couple the Chase Freedom Unlimited with the Reserve, you're looking at 2.25%. Instead of it. So, I get pretty good return on those. Those would probably be my top 5 to keep if I had to get rid of every other card in my wallet.
Wow. That'd be a pretty nice setup, I think. Like that covers a lot of stuff.
Yeah.
Do you spend a lot of time, like, do you like enjoy like the optimization of it, like trying to figure out like how to best get the most rewards out of every purchase?
Yes, absolutely. I like to take I have to put sticky notes on my wife's credit cards, like you use this one at the grocery store, you use this one for gas. I look to maximize because I don't manufacture spend. Mm-hmm. So if you manufacture spend, you can buy points relatively cheap, but that's getting harder in itself. I want to get the most points or cash back on each purchase to really maximize that. So, I do take every card and I look at which one's going to give me the best reward for that purchase, and I go from there.
Cool. Do you do business spending on credit cards too, or do you mostly just do like personal spending?
Well, I have some, business expense wise, it's very little for me. Although, I have Waller's Wallet, it's more of a sole proprietorship. There's not a whole lot of expenses that come with it, but I do have business credit cards for the fact that, business credit cards, like the American Express Business Blue Plus earns double points on all purchases, and American Express points I find very valuable. So, there is opportunities there for business cards, but I do a lot of them on personal credit cards.
Cool. All right. Well, I think that's about all I have. Yeah. Anything else you want to say before we wrap this up?
Yeah, I guess I would just one statement about because I know you for high school kids and college kids, I've always found when I first was getting credit cards, in college, Discover was great for the fact that they're secure and student credit cards. And for America, if your parents have good credit, you can piggyback on their credit by asking them to open up a card as an authorized user for you. And with American Express, you have to link your social security number. So you get that credit history from them as well, which could really catapult you forward in your journey for credit, which is only going to benefit you down the road.
I think that's a really good tip to get added on to your parents, one of your parents' older cards, and as an authorized user. But you got to make sure that they have those good, the payment history built up and just good habits so that you're not accidentally stunting your credit. So I think, that's a great tip though. I'm in the process of actually getting added to one of my parents' credit cards as an authorized user just to get that history on there as well, because I think that's a great way to, to just boost your credit at a young age. Well, can you tell people where they can find out more about you? I know we've got your channel linked up in the description below, but just give our audience a little.
Yeah, sure. You can find me on YouTube at Waller's Wallet. I'm pretty active on Twitter at Waller's Wallet. My Instagram, I take pictures whenever I'm traveling. All of my handles are pretty much at Waller's Wallet. I have a Facebook page too, at Waller's Wallet. So, pretty active on those. I post videos every Thursday. And, I post pretty actively on Twitter. So if anytime you guys have questions, feel free to reach out. I'm always happy to answer viewer questions because I frankly just love talking credit cards.
Cool. Well, yeah, you got really good. I really like your travel pictures on Instagram. I'm following you over there, and those just make me jealous. Like I gotta get out and travel some more because those pictures are crazy.
Oh man, the world's a beautiful place, man. It's just so enjoyable.
It is. All right. Well, thank you very much for being on the channel, Waller's Wallet.
I appreciate it. Apple. I really appreciate it. This was a lot of fun.
Yeah, absolutely. We'll have to have you back soon. But until next time, guys, we'll see you in the next one.
All right, safe travels. Take care.